Hi, I'm Shane Liyanage, and you're listening to the Functional Tennis Podcast.
Welcome to the video episode of the Functional Tennis Podcast. I'm your host, Fabio Molle. This week I speak to data analyst Shane Liyanage. Shane works with some great players such as Ons Jabeur, Arina Sabalenka, Emil Ruusuvuori, and he tells us how he works with them. He tells us things he's learned from them. He tells us about working with juniors and a lot more. It's really interesting how he got into it. Hope you enjoy the episode. If you do, please leave a thumbs up. And last thing, shout out to our podcast sponsor Slinger, who make the awesome portable ball machine. They're a great partner to have and they help us out a lot, and we love their ball. We've been using one here at Functional Tennis for over maybe 2.5 years now, since very early days. So absolutely love them. If you have any questions about them, let me know. But let's jump into this chat with Shane. Hope you enjoy it. Hi Shane, welcome to the Functional Tennis Podcast. How are you?
I'm well, mate. I'm well. It's good to, it was great to catch up with you in Paris, but good to see you again.
Yeah, no, it was long overdue, and it was great because at least I can add a bit more context to this conversation that, we don't get to meet everybody in person beforehand, and when you do, I find that they're better conversations. You just know a little bit more, or sometimes you may know somebody who knows them really well, and that helps, and so little things make a difference. But excited to have you on. I know data analytics is such a big thing at the moment. We did have Mike James on before and Craig O'Shaughnessy on before, so things have changed. That was like maybe 2.5 years ago, a year and a half ago, so I'm sure it'll be interesting to see what's changed in the game of data analytics. Also to find out exactly what you do, how you got into it, and who you're working with, and what a bit of feedback on Roland Garros, and looking forward to Wimbledon. So let's get straight into it. Maybe you can tell us a bit about where you're from and how you got into the whole data analytics, and if you have a tennis background.
Yeah, look, I've got a bit of a circuitous story to get into tennis analytics, but my background, I actually studied commerce and law. I grew up in Melbourne, Victoria, Melbourne, in Australia, and so I was a lawyer originally after university, and I did have a commerce degree as well, and that's where I guess the number statistics side sort of kind of lived dormant in me for a couple of years, but yeah, slowly I sort of ended up doing a lot of financial and number and data crunching work in sort of legal roles, and eventually transitioned into more sort of data roles, and I knew I needed to upskill myself, so I went back, got a data science qualification, and recently I actually went in and specialised even further and got a sports analytics master's, which is basically a data science degree in sports. And in terms of my background in tennis, I did play up until 14, 15. I wouldn't say I was a great player, but I did play a lot of junior tournaments. I felt sorry for my parents who would drive me around, and I'd lose in the first 2 rounds. But that was my juniors, and I guess it rekindled my love affair whilst I was at uni. I was playing a lot of tennis when I was doing uni in Canberra, a lot of tournaments there, and I think I played at a reasonable level, played at Australian money tour level, obviously not talented enough to go much further, but I played a little bit, and I coached part-time to get some extra funds at university, and that's sort of how I've sort of maintained a little bit of the relationship with tennis over the time.
You understand the game, so which always helps, the pressures of it and the various score, everything. And when did you move into tennis analytics? Did you do cricket before?
Yeah, that's right. So I was in data roles for maybe a decade. I worked in health, transport, and finance sectors, and I was seeing that I was working with subject matter experts in those domains where I wouldn't be an expert. I was working with doctors. There's no way I could do what they were doing, but I was bringing data and working with them, and we were coming up with dashboards and tools to help them make decisions. And I was like, well, I can apply this to sport. I can apply this to tennis, where I've got a little bit of a background understanding and a passion. And it wasn't naturally easy to sort of transition. You kind of, I started data-driven sports analytics, and I did that part-time, and I guess I wasn't getting a lot of clients. And at the same time, applied for a role in Cricket Australia. So I got the analytics role there, and I was there a couple of years, became the analytics lead, largely working with operational data, so trying to grow the game, so seeing where we can target and get more players into cricket, and then hopefully, having a funnel where we can identify talent going into high performance. So that was sort of my role at cricket. did a little bit of work with the indoor cricket team and a little bit of work with the intellectually disabled and vision impaired teams, which is really cool, bringing data to them for the very first time. And then a number of coaches sort of reached out to me and asked, well, can we do a little bit in tennis? And I was very fortunate that I think it was Federico Plastidilli, the first coach that with a player on the ATP tour. He reached out to me in the start of 2019, and that was sort of where that was with Thomas Fabiano, and that was where I sort of got introduced to doing work with tour players, and we worked together at the Australian Open, and for basically the whole year that year, and he had some really good results. I think the win over Tsitsipas at Wimbledon and the win over Dominic Thiem at the US Open, and I feel like that got my name out there, and since then other coaches have reached out.
Nice. So two things there that stand out is, one, it seems like it's a bit easier going into that sort of, so setting yourself up if you've experience or you work already for a federation or, sports specific, where then you can branch out, you can do a bit in your spare time. And two, it helps if you do your job and the player gets the results, that gets you traffic to your phone number.
Yeah, look, there's luck, right? There's an element of luck. So Federico met with me in Auckland before the Australian Open, and I think Fabiano just lost in qualifying, and then we just said, let's try it out at the Australian Open. And, he won 3 rounds. He won 2 rounds. They got to the third round, which is a great result. And then I wouldn't, if I think I've played a little bit of a role, but I don't think we played as much of a role as we did later on. And I think, but the result itself just, I think, motivated the player, motivated the coach, and I guess there's always luck involved in this as well.
And often at that level, one thing can make a huge difference. Just one little thing, and it could have been something you said to him, or maybe it wasn't, but there's a confidence going in that he knows more information. He probably just backs himself a lot more. Yeah,
absolutely, yep.
And who are you working with as of now? I know in Paris you're telling me you're working with Ons Jabeur. Obviously you work with some juniors with the Australian Tennis Federation. Emil Ruusuvuori, were you working with him?
That's right, yep.
Who else? Anybody else?
We're working. I think on the WTA side, the two main players we're working with is Ons Jabeur. So Issam Jalali, I think, start of 2020, reached out to me, and we've collaborated for over 3 years now. So it's great to see the progress he's made. Some significant gains, I think, over that time, and I can't speak highly enough of him as a coach. The way he's brought me in, data wasn't something he was comfortable with. He brought me in, and he sort of drip fed it to Ons, and the whole team's involved as well. Karim, who's Ons' partner, and also trainer and physio. So they've sort of brought data in a small way, and then they've expanded, and it's great to see what they've done across the board. And the main female player that we're working with is Arina Zabalenka. Okay. So I think it was the start of 2021. Anton Dubrov, the coach, I was introduced to him through another great coach, Mark Safoulis, and we've been working with Arina. She had a great 2021. Some of the results this year, I think, she's up and down a little bit, but I'm confident that she can sort of rediscover that form as well. And she made a couple of finals recently, so I think she's sort of on the way back. Then on the ATP side, Emil Ruusuvuori, again, I think we started in 2021 at the start of the year, and with Federico Ricci. And he's another great coach. I've had a relationship with Tennis Finland for some time. They've got a device similar to Hawkeye. It's a smart court that does AI sort of ball tracking. Zenith, and I was helping them out for a couple of years, and Tennis Finland's obviously heavily involved in that. And then through those connections, they introduced me to Emil's team, and we've been working together for this is our second year full time together. So it's again another great player who's making sort of progress. We were really. He was playing great on the hard courts, and I think the focus was to really improve on the clay and the grass. And I'm really happy for him. His clay season was the best he's ever had. He's also started the grass season really well. So yeah, some really positive moves, and I'm hoping to see that sort of go further. Tara Daniel, again, we started working with him with Sven, and then he wasn't with a coach for a while, so that was a little bit different, working directly with a player, but that was really good for me to get that experience and learning again to how to distill the information in a different way to a different audience, to someone who's very smart but needed the information simply, so I guess I've developed a little bit with working with, I guess, a whole different range of clients.
I think it's great to be able to work with the player directly as well, because you pick up bits of information that if you're working directly with a coach or the trainer you won't get. And with, let's say, with Arena, with Ons, with Emil, do you work the same way with them, or are they all different?
Yeah, all very different. All very different. I mean, the coaches are different, the players different, and that's probably, I guess, the introductory period when you start with them. My role is to sort of suss that out a little bit, to maybe test a little bit of what I can give them and what I can't give them, how to communicate. It helps being at tournament with them because you can get that instant feedback. And see, I guess, the facial expressions and sort of gauge that way. But over time, I think they've all got a very, very distinct product. If Arena was playing a particular player and Ons was going to play the exact same player, the two reports and the vision and the information that they get is different, and that's because they're very different players and they get the information different. They'll apply it in practice differently, and that's important for me to know, and my team to make sure that those differences are sort of are made in the reports and the analysis.
And has Arena played Ons yet? You working for both of them?
Yeah, they've played a few times. The big one that they played was at Wimbledon in the quarterfinals last year, so that was an interesting one. We have a process around managing when two of our players play, so I gave the option to both coaches. I could get two different analysts in my team, and they both have access to the information. They both prepare reports and provide it separately. I gave them that option, but they both actually elected for me to still be the lead analyst for that, and they both wanted to see the report that was given to the other side immediately after the match was finished. So they both actually had a look at it, which is good. Which is I guess the way that they were happy to manage the process. What we provide them is one thing. There's a lot going in, so data alone isn't going to be the outcome of the match, and they both understand that. They've got a really good relationship, Anton and Issam. So I think they've made it easy for me, I think, when they play each other.
And who won?
Arena won that one. It was a great match. One of the best matches Arena's played, certainly in 2021. I rate that very highly, and Ons was playing really well on grass that year as well. So it was a great match, I thought. Arena was certainly the better player.
And obviously, you were at Roland Garros. I don't think you're going to Wimbledon. You may correct me. Is taking a constant feedback, look at facial expressions from the players and the team. But do you one, how often do you meet them when you're at the tournaments? And two, is it okay not to be there? Yeah, look,
I think being there has a lot of advantages. So one example was I was with one of the players, and the last month or so, the serve didn't feel right to them, or the coach, and so I was there, and I took vision of them sort of serving in practice matches, and then I immediately relayed back. I've got some high performance coaches working on my team, so they just had a look at the vision, used some annotation tools, and they basically broke down the serve and areas where you could do some changes in the short term and get a gain, and I guess longer term what to look at, and that was something that, had I not been there, I don't think the coach or the player would have communicated that, and we would have sort of let that go for some time. And just even when like we give a plan or a report, just to be there and discuss it, and the coach might go, "Yeah, I'm seeing that. Can you quickly get me that?" And then those things, I think, with the time difference as well, are a little bit more challenging when I'm away. But there's some pros as well being away. I have access to a much more powerful computer in my office, and access to all the tools at my disposal that I can quickly get some information out there. I know my team are also in different time zones, so having someone in the Australian time zone actually helps, because if a match is finished, the players and coaches are sleeping, we can churn out some work in the Australian time zone. When they wake up, it's ready. Like there are some pros having someone in the Australian time zone, but I think if you weigh it all up, I think it is better to be there with the players and coaches.
And this is going out the first Tuesday of Wimbledon. So are you at Wimbledon today or not?
No. So there is a chance in the second week that I'll be there, and that's subject to if I need to be there for some of the clients, the juniors. But at this stage, I suspect I'll be doing Wimbledon from Melbourne again.
And you work with juniors as well. Is the process the exact same?
I would say it's different. I think the focus for juniors is largely on themselves and developing themselves. With the seniors or the pro tour players already, I would break down analysis into three categories. So when you've got a longer period of time, like an off season, it's very much on the player. When you're going into a tournament, you're probably looking at a few little things, the data to change. For like a Wimbledon in the week, 2 weeks before, we'd look at a few things that you can action leading up to it. And then when you're in a tournament, you're scouting your opponents. I think with the juniors, it's even in a tournament like Wimbledon, you do a little bit of scouting of the opponent, but it's still a lot more about the players' habits, processes. We're trying to, my philosophy and a lot of the coaches that I work with, we're trying to build these players for the long term. Yes, the immediate success is great, but winning in juniors is not the same as sort of having a successful career on as a senior player, and I think the data should be playing a role as well, a longer term role with them for sure.
Interesting. And let's say I'm a new player, let's say senior player, I'm a top 30 player. I give you a call, Shane, and how do you begin working with a player? So do you meet them on site first of all, or what exactly goes on there when you start working with guys and girls?
Yeah, look, it'd be great to meet them on site, but usually it would be a Zoom call. We just chat through, try and suss out what they're actually aiming for. So what I mean by that is, do they just want some insights going into matches on their opponents, or do they want to actually go, look, I'm not sure where my game's at, or what are my strengths, my opportunities, weaknesses. So try and suss that out, and then, depending on what it is, we have a lot of different products ranging from sort of video analysis, so tagging opponents, to deep dive reports on the player, where we would get 30 to 40 matches of their data, run it through our tracking system, and then produce a report which gives them a breakdown of their strengths and weaknesses, and short, medium, long term sort of areas we think they should focus on. And then everything in between. So, a lot of players have come and asked me about, ball toss. So we've actually run that through and looked at, I guess, where, the ball toss and the outcomes from that, and, the success ratios and what happens under pressure. So it can be a very bespoke analysis on something like that, or it could be, we've done movement related analysis. So yeah, it's really sussing out what they need, and then trying to build a product or service that will help them sort of get that answer that they're looking for.
So everybody's bespoke.
Absolutely. I think that's maybe a point of difference that I was big on at the start, and certainly my background in sort of data roles, we didn't go and sort of buy an off-the-shelf product. We work out a scope of work depending on the requirements and of whatever client, and I think that's something I brought into tennis. I'm big on trying to make something fit for the team as opposed to them fit to me. So yeah, very bespoke, I think.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing more than what I thought you did. You know, sometimes you just think people think data analytics is just, oh, where did the forehand go? How many serves did he miss? What's he doing? The forehand goes here. Those sort of patterns. But you seem to do a lot more than that. What sort of team do you have?
Yeah. So I've got a couple of analysts and data scientists and a data engineer, and they're probably the grunts in terms of the analytics side. And then on top of them, I have some high performance coaches, and what they do, I would say they provide the context around a lot of the analysis. And any of the deep dives, I make sure that there's a coach that reads through it. Any of the recommendations, I want a coach that's had experience coaching players at this level, communicating to the players. I think it's really important in those reports because data people, and me included, I think we can be blunt sometimes, and the message, even though it's right, it can be delivered in a way that could be a deterrent or not maybe something as the players would be receptive to. So it's really important to have that, bounce that with the coach, and it's the same as well. The coach might drive. They might look at the vision and go, you know what, Shane, I think if we can get some data on this could make this analysis even better. So I think bringing those high performance coaches in is really important. I've got a couple that are in-house in DDSA, and then I also reach out to some great third party or private coaches as well. Whenever I think I need a specific coach, I'll go out to them. So good examples, I had to do an analysis on a left-handed player, and there were 400, 500 in the world, and I actually have a good relationship with a coach on tour who coaches a left-handed player in the top 50. I just said, look, do you want to be involved in it? I have a left-handed player. It's not going to be a conflict with your player that probably won't play maybe in the next couple of years, but yeah, and they reached out, and obviously that was great to have a different lens. Someone that had worked with a lefty, was a lefty themselves. It was really. I thought it added some extra value to that report.
Nice. It's quite interesting. How do you then price for a service like this, where a player may not be playing, maybe playing qualies, maybe get to the first round, may get to the final, and it's quite I think it's tough one to price. Yeah,
it's a tough one, and I'll be honest, I think at the start I probably got it wrong, underpriced a lot, but we've sort of moved to a 3 different approaches. So you got to pay as you go. So there's certain products where it is standalone prices, like video tagging. We have a pretty set price there, whether you go with a Sissa or a Dartfish. The prices are pretty standard, and then some of the reports, I think for the basic report, they're standard, and then additional analysis on top of that would cost a bit more. And this is where we'd obviously have a chat with the player and go, what do you really want? And if they say, oh, we actually want these things as well, then obviously we'd charge for that. I think. That's I guess pay as you go, and then there's the other one, annual packages. So players, the bigger players, will pay for we're going to work with you for 12 months, and they'll want all their matches scouted. They'll want a couple of deep dives, usually going into pre-season, and usually after the Wimbledon period, just a bit of a deep dive on their game, areas for them to focus on. They'll want all their matches scouted, all the video from their matches tagged. And then the coaches will have some ad hoc requests. I think there's about 3 or 4 included in the package, so that they pay an annual fee and they get all of that. So the bigger players can probably afford that. And then the last one, which we've just introduced this year, is a percentage of prize money. So if a player can't afford to pay for something, I guess now that we can sort of do a percentage of prize money, and that can be something that we collect in after 3 months, 6 months, or whatever we agree with the player. But we try and give a number of different options and for the players to use this tool and make it affordable for them as well.
And do the big guys and girls, do they take that offer? I wouldn't say they do now.
The bigger players go with the annual package. I think the percentage of prize money one, Yeah, it's it would be nice. So I won't lie, because some of that would be good. But I think it's usually the more junior players or the ones that are coming up, or a lower rank, that they'll go for that option. Because I think, if there's no success, then they're not paying anything. So I guess that would be the carrot for them. But obviously we're going to work hard to try and get them to win. So that's our driver.
You probably have to be careful who you pick as well. You got to see potential in them.
Yeah, and I think that's something. So initially at BDSA, we were trying to work with everyone, but I think in the last certainly 6 to 8 months, we've moved away from that. So we like to have a chat with the coaches and meet with them and see if there's there's likely to be a good connection. Obviously, we try and build to the team, but there's some situations where we go, you know what, we don't think we could actually make a difference or help. As much as it's for the player, it's our brand as well. And if we feel like we're going to work with a player that's not going to apply themselves, and it does tarnish a little bit for our reputation, and so we want to know that we'll be respected in that team. We'll be someone that they'll value, and if that's the case, then absolutely we will try and make it work somehow.
Great. I'm not sure if you can tell me this, but what is the rough cost for a top player to have your services for a year? Yeah. Can I guess, by the way?
Go. Yep.
I'm thinking between $50,000 and $80,000.
No, we're cheaper than that. But yeah, it ranges. So the annual packages as well have a different sort of range. So the most basic one is $15,000 a year, and that's they get, I think, 2 scouting reports. 2 videos of an opponent. So there's some minimums there, and they'll get some annual reports, and then all the way at the top end of the spectrum, we're charging $60,000, and then they get the bells and whistles. They get a number of detail reports. They get sort of quarterly reports. They get a lot of ad hoc reports that they want, and basically they'll get a lot of. They'll have an analyst dedicated to them at the slams and the bigger events. So all their work gets sort of processed really quickly. But yeah, there's different ranges, probably from $15,000 to $60,000 in terms of the annual packages.
When you think these guys they want to win slams, that's what they're there for, winning tournaments. So it's not really a lot for them. It's a lot for somebody, obviously 200 and plus, or even 100, maybe even 50, 60 plus. It's a lot of money. But if you're working with the top end, they're winning. They're trying to win slams. So it's more than it's a good expense to have. And just also, just something completely from Roland Garros. Did you pick up anything sticking out? Like, what's 2 questions here? What's changed in the game over the past couple of years, and what's changed in data analytics in the past couple of years?
Yeah, in terms of the game, and I think I was probably a little bit more observing the women's game actually at Roland Garros. Obviously, Nadal's win was amazing, but in the women's game, I'm seeing a trend where there are more WTA players with better forehands. They're hitting it heavier. They're actually playing a bit more of a width game, so they're opening up the angles better. And that's something that the trend has started happening. But I think, I just saw more players that are much more capable with the forehand. I think traditionally in the women's game they're very strong through the hips, so very good backhands. But yeah, I think that's something I saw, and then the variety. Obviously, the drop shot's something the last couple of years, but I felt like again this year the drop shot was such a weapon on both the men's and women's on the clay, and that was something I saw. And in the data space, look, I think there's just more players, more sort of people doing it. So you raised Mike James. I actually caught up with him a number of times, so great to see what he's doing at Muratoglu Analytics. Caught up with Fabrice Savaro, Swiss guy sort of doing this. I know Craig O'Shaughnessy was there as well. There was I think Michael Iosifidis, name dropping all of these guys, but they're all doing great work with their respective clients. And for me, it was heartening seeing other people in the same field doing well. Obviously, we're competing with each other a little bit for clients, but I always feel there's plenty of fish in the sea, and if we're all collectively doing a good job, it's actually enhancing our profession. We're all different. We've got different skill sets and backgrounds, and the way we've sort of approached dealing with clients. I'm sure there's some pros and cons to everyone's approach, but I think if collectively we're all doing a reasonable job, it means other people are going to want to look at bringing data into the game, and I truly believe evidence-backed training and practice and scouting is important. So yeah, I'm really happy to see that it's sort of grown a lot in the last couple of years.
Yeah, that hopefully continues to grow. And Wimbledon, we leave it with Wimbledon now. Who, obviously, I know who you have to say for the ladies' game, but who's your pick for the ladies and the men's?
Yeah, I mean, for the women's, I'm hoping ons. I think that they've done the work. Again, great win yesterday, which I think, again, obviously unfortunate Belinda rolled her ankle, but I felt Ons was playing great tennis the whole week. So, great for her to do that. Obviously, Iga's going to go in with a lot of confidence. I hope Ons on the men's side. Novak again has to start favourite, but Berrettini, Hurkacz, even Cilic, I think their levels are pretty good. I think their grass, the last couple of tournaments are showing that they're going to be round about there. Felix Auger-Aliassime, again, great grass court player, and I think he's been taking steps on all surfaces really in the last 12 months, and I think again Wimbledon will be a good opportunity for him. Hopefully he gets a good draw. Nadal, again, I think it gets through the opening few rounds. I think that's the trickiest part for him on grass. He doesn't like, I think, the fresh grass. I think it's a bit slipperier for him. If he can get through that opening week, he's going to be dangerous. I think it'll take a really good player to beat him. I haven't given you one pick, but I think there's a few on the men's side that I'd be looking out for.
Yeah, men's look exciting because I said those guys have improved a lot. Like even Cilic, he's just been playing unbelievable lately. So that's going to be exciting. Thank you very much for jumping on. Hope to see you at some other slam in the near future. Obviously, it won't be Wimbledon, but thanks a lot.
No, thanks for having me. Great to meet you at Roland Garros, and obviously more than welcome to catch up with you next time we see. Hopefully you're in Australia at some time as well.